Hello knitters, Barbara Benson here. I am an independent knitwear designer who also likes to make videos here on my YouTube channel, Watch Barbara Knit. If you'd like to know more about my knitwear designs, please check in the description below where you will find links to all my online shenanigans, including where to find my patterns to knit up for yourself, how to join the Watch Barbara Knit face group, and how to support me on Patreon. If you've been watching for a while, you might notice that things look a little bit different right here. Picture quality might not be as great. I am having some technological difficulties with my webcam, so I'm using my iPhone and making do and making it work. So a little bit different, but hopefully it's good enough. Today, I am talking about the longtail cast on. It is a very common cast on that you see everywhere, and I thought I should make a tutorial for it. But the biggest challenge, in my personal opinion, with the longtail cast on is estimating how long that tail needs to be. When you make the longtail cast on, you have to decide ahead of time how long that tail is going to be for the number of stitches that you need to cast on. So upcoming is a demo where I'm going to use we're going to go to hand focus, and you can see how I do the longtail cast on and one way that I estimate the long tail. And when you come back, I'm going to show you another trick on how to avoid running into a situation where you either have too little or too much of a long tail cast on. So let's go to the demo. First, we need 6 inches for our weaving end of end. And then what you do is you estimate how many stitches you need to cast on. You need enough yarn in your tail to cast that on. That is what I will be showing you a little bit more tips on later. But basically, what you want to do is take your yarn, hold it like that, and then let's go 1 stitch, 2 stitch, 3 stitch, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, scooch it down, 9, 10. So that is roughly enough yarn with this yarn and this needle to cast on 10 stitches. Then, if you need to cast on 20 stitches, all you have to do is double it up. So that's 20 stitches. Then that's 30 stitches. See, I just folded it over. Now we have 3. And let's say we wanted to cast on 60 stitches. At that point, I could just grab it here, elongate it out, and double up that whole length. So I just doubled it. That's 60. You can do the math however you want. But that is one easy way to estimate your tail. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be casting on 60 stitches right now. So I am just going to just have a little bit so I can show you. And again, remember, after you estimate it, you have to add that extra 6 inches for weaving in ends. So I just have, here's my tail. My tail means it ends. It is not attached at this end to the ball of yarn. Here's the ball of yarn. This is the end that is attached to your ball of yarn is your working yarn. So first thing you do is tie a slip knot. You don't have to tie a slip knot. There are ways to do it without using a slip knot, but we're going to start with a slip knot. To tie a slip knot, you have your tail across the palm of your hand. You wrap around your pointer finger, make a little X like that, pull this loop out, reach through the loop, grab your working yarn, and then keeping that tail in these fingers, I grab the working yarn with my index finger and then pull, and that creates your slip knot. Then we're going to take one of our needles, stick it through the slip knot, and tighten it back down. And as you can see, when I pull on the working yarn, it tightens. Oh, that's a little bit twisted, So I'm going to turn it there. So see when I'm going to show you that again. Look, when I pull on the yarn, you see it's pulling this end. When I first stuck it in, it was twisted like that. And when I pulled, it was coming from, so it just makes it a little easier to make sure it's flat like that. Stick your needle in, tighten it down so it's just taut. Now, we have two ends. This is the tail yarn. This yarn that goes up to the ball is the working yarn. Place both strands of yarn across your palm with the working yarn on the left. Curl these lower fingers around both strands, then take your index finger and your thumb and insert them between the two strands with the working yarn going over your pointer finger and the tail yarn going over your thumb, and then spread your fingers apart. This people refer to as creating your slingshot. If you look, I still have both strands being held with my other curled in fingers so that there's tension. If you see, watch this, see how it goes boing, boing, boing. If I do this, see how it holds its tension? If it's loose like this, you're never going to get anywhere. I have another video on holding tension. I'll link it in the description below. You want it pulled out under tension. Just think about like a guitar string. You just want a little bit of tension. And this is from your needle. Now, rotate your hand towards yourself. And again, we're looking at a slingshot. Okay, this is the working yarn going over my finger. This is the tail yarn going over my thumb. You take your needle. This is your needle. You move it towards yourself and then scoop up this strand of yarn from front to back. So you're pointing the needle at the palm of your hand and picking that up. And you can see the yarn is running from my thumb over and still going down, held under tension. Then you rotate your hand toward yourself, so your thumb is coming towards you, and your working yarn is now parallel with your needle, so that you can then wrap from left to right. We're going counterclockwise around the needle, and again, it's still under tension. Then there are two ways you can think about this. You can either think about pointing the needle back towards yourself to bring it through that loop, or you can think about using your thumb to push it up over. However you think about it, what you're doing is pulling this loop that is around your needle through the loop that's around your thumb. You then remove your thumb, stick it back between, and pull on the tail yarn so that you're tightening it. You might have to release and do it again, and you tighten it down, but not too tight, just so it's just snug around your needle. And your tension again, working yarn is still going over your finger, tail yarn is still going over your thumb, extra fingers are still holding these two strands together under tension. So now you have your slip knot and your cast on stitch, so that makes a total of 2 stitches. Let's go through that whole process again. We are going to reach down with our needle, scoop up the bottom strand, scoop it up from the front and from beneath. Move your working yarn so it's parallel with your needle, and then wrap it around just across the needle like that, and then pull it forward with your thumb going over and pulling that stitch through the thumb loop, returning your thumb down, and then using that to snug it up. I'm using the word snug because you don't want to crank this down and make it super, super tight. So you can see I've removed my hand altogether. That's fine. I'm simply, to pick it back up, I'm just straightening it, lay it back over your palm, curl those bottom fingers, insert your finger between the two strands, insert your thumb between the two strands, spread them apart, rotate toward yourself while pulling the needle. See, I have the needle touching the knuckle of my middle finger. It's just easy. You can position, once you get comfortable with this, you can do it in any number of ways. But I just want you to see what is happening. Again, scooping from the front and then the bottom. Oops, see, I got both strands. You don't want to do that. Okay? You just want this bottom strand. See, if you need to touch your needle to your thumb, you can. Just pick that up. Rotate your hands. Wrap. Rock your thumb back to bring that loop up and over the point. Let it go. Then reinsert your thumb between the strands and snug down your tail. Now I'm going to do a little faster so you can see the motion. So here, here, here. Scoop, wrap, loop, snug. Scoop, wrap, loop, snug. Scoop, wrap, loop, snug. And you can see how as you get comfortable with it, it becomes one smooth motion. The big one is when I drop the loop with my thumb automatically goes and grabs that tail and snugs it up. So you can actually get going pretty darn fast. One last time. Take your needle, point it at your palm. It is in front of the yarn. You scoop up that yarn from below until it is wrapped around. The tail yarn is still being held under tension with these lower fingers. You use the yarn over your finger to wrap, that's your working yarn, around the tip of the needle. You use your thumb to pull the loop over the tip, and then your thumb comes out of the loop and tightens, snugs that up. Now, if I look at it, I have cast on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I've cast on 13 stitches. And that's, you just count the number of stitches you have here. This is what the right side of the cast on looks like. This is what the wrong side of the cast on looks like. You can start without a knot. If you want to do that without the slip knot, if you want to do that, all you have to do is, again, you have your tail ready. Here's my big long, actually I've gotten ridiculous length on my tail here. Here's your working yarn. Here's your tail. Again, lay both strands across your hand, stick your finger and your thumb out and split it, just like that. All you have to do is stick that needle up under there, and then when you first twist it, it creates your first stitch. So you can do that as well. Some people feel like that's not as secure. So it is just up to personal preference. So I hope that that has helped you get a better handle on the long tail cast on. Luckily, it's a video. You can go back and watch it as many times as you would like. Okay. I'm sure that for some of y'all that was a refresher, that you've already seen the long tail. If this is your first time trying to do the long tail and you didn't quite get it, don't worry about it. It's why it's a video. Just go back, watch it a few more times, try to go along with it, see if you can get it to click for you. Now, I showed you the wrap around the needle style of estimating a long tail cast on, which, you know, is just as simple as putting it on and wrapping it, counting the number of times you wrap and saying, okay, that's enough for that many stitches. But here is another way to, and it's not an estimation because it takes the estimating out of the process. It will work. There are two ways you can do it. If you are doing a project that has more than one skein of yarn, what you do is you use both skeins of yarn for your cast on. You're like, wait a minute. So what you do is we're going to pretend this is one skein of yarn, and here we've got our other. So we've got two things of yarn, right? And what we do is we take both skeins of yarn, and I have two different colors so you can see. We're taking both skeins of yarn, leaving our 6 inches of end to weave in, tying our slip knot, all right? Insert your needle for your slip knot, and then we are designating one skein, our working yarn, and designating the other skein, our tail yarn. So you can see here, we just have 2 skeins of yarn, and then you have as much yarn as you need to finish your cast on. So you simply, this is also a way to do a fun 2-color cast on. You can use 2 different colors here, but you do your cast on, you cast on as many stitches as you need, and then the ball of yarn that is your working yarn, you keep. The ball of yarn that was your tail yarn, you cut that yarn, leaving 6 inches to weave in, and you set it aside until you need it again. So you've just skipped estimating the tail altogether, okay? And now you have one extra end to weave in, but that is a small price to pay, especially if you are casting on a lot of stitches. Now, if you are not using more than one skein of yarn, if you are doing a 1 skein project, if you have your yarn balled up in a way that you have the outside and the center pull accessible to you, you can also, okay, first decide, when I knit this project, am I going to use center pull or am I going to use outside pull? Okay, if you're going to outside pull the project, use the end that is the outside and designate that your working yarn. Then pull the tail out of the center. Use the middle, the center pull, and designate that your tail yarn. Cast it on and then cut it, leaving a 6 inch to weave in, and proceed knitting your project with the outside. If you want to center pull the entire project, designate the center pull your working yarn, pull from the outside for your tail, and then cut that, and you've used it to create your tail. So those are 3 ways. One's the wrapping, one's using 2 separate balls, and one is using the center and the outside pull of a center pull ball, where you can try to make sure that you're not too worried about your long tail cast on either having way too much or way too little. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer as many as I can. If there are any other things you would like to see, please let me know. I'm always looking for video ideas. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, click that like button. And if you would like to be notified whenever I upload a new video, please subscribe to my channel and select notifications. Thank you so much.